There was a time when I was really on Dave Filoni's side. I believed he and Jon Favreau were diametrically opposed to everything Kathleen Kennedy and her acolytes responsible for the sequel trilogy were doing, or at least I really hoped that that was the case.
You're a moron!
Of course, that was just empty hope. I compare that now to the guy who sees the shark swimming right toward him with its mouth open and thinking, well, maybe it's not gonna bite me. Maybe it'll turn around and bite the other sharks who smell my blood in the water. Well, it turns out that they're all sharks, and they all have the same purpose. Dave Filoni is just another one of Kathleen Kennedy's acolytes. Dave Filoni is more interested in his job, in his title, than he is in anything else. He is not the brilliant storyteller that we all believed he was. I mean, he has a lot of talent. That's undeniable. The Clone Wars were outstanding. Rebels were at least watchable. But he is just fallen off of the cliff with his storytelling. It's just not that good. He and Jon Favreau are responsible for season 3 of The Mandalorian. No matter how many times we go, oh, that was just Kathleen Kennedy interfering in their storytelling. That's just Kathleen Kennedy trying to tie The Mandalorian in with the sequel trilogy. Some of that might be true, but they went along with it. I don't know about you, but if I were the writer of The Mandalorian, I would not allow my creation to be sullied in that way. I would not permit Kathleen Kennedy to manipulate me, if that was the case. I don't even necessarily believe that's true. I think they're just completely on board with Disney's Star Wars as it is. And now they are trying to lure us in like spiders to the web. They want to lure us in, and they think that we're idiots. Is ultimately what's going on now. So some new information came out about Dave Filoni's upcoming movie, the one that is supposedly going to be the culmination of all the Mandoverse stories. So, some new information came out whereby they essentially admit that they believe that you and I are gullible idiots and that we will forget everything that they've done.
It's not my fault!
Well, I've got news for you guys. I will never forget what you have done to the Star Wars galaxy far, far away. I will never forgive it. I'm over. You have lost me as a customer forever. But what do you guys think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. They have decided to title the new Dave Filoni movie coming out Heir to the Empire. As if you and I are stupid enough to go, well, I mean, they brought back the member berry. They brought back this thing that I used to love in Star Wars, so obviously I'm obligated to go and watch it. So, drop your thoughts in the comment section. Are you stupid enough to go and watch it as if you expect something different than all the other Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars?
How about no?
Alright, today we're going to take a look at a couple of articles. This first one is from superherohype.com. Dave Filoni Star Wars movie title reportedly revealed. According to Twitter user My Time to Shine Hello, Dave Filoni's Star Wars movie title will be called Star Wars Heir to the Empire. Filoni was announced as the director of a new Star Wars film at Star Wars Celebration London, along with James Mangold and Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. My Time to Shine Hello reports that Jon Favreau, co-creator of The Mandalorian, is just producing. For now, it's all Filoni. And then if you look at the tweet here, it does say, shocker, not really. Dave Filoni's movie is called Star Wars: Heir to the Empire. Jon Favreau is only producing for now. It is all Filoni. Yeah, they are trying to use a member berry to lure us all in. They're trying to make us forget about all the damage that they've done. They're trying to, and you can't blame them, of course, but they're trying to reunite the fan base. Because, of course, Heir to the Empire was the name of the excellent book written by Timothy Zahn, some 20, 30 years ago, whatever that was. Back in the 90s, I remember reading them. I guess I don't remember the year they came out. But they've been out for a long time. They are a much-loved book series. They are the basis for the extended universe that we all used to love before the dark times, before the Empire, before Disney took over Star Wars. In Heir to the Empire, they originally, the writer originally put out the character Grand Admiral Thrawn. So I was excited, I guess, I'll say it this way. I was excited when I heard that Thrawn was going to be in Rebels, way back in the day. When I saw he was in Rebels, I thought that was cool because, of course, I was excited to see that character in, not live action at the time. He was just animated, but I was excited to see him on the screen. However, Disney just can't get it right. Disney did not get him right even back then, and I don't have a whole lot of hope at all, in fact, what they're going to do with him now in this Mandoverse stuff. I don't think they'll do a very good job, and I believe that a lot of this is just damage control from the sequel trilogy, because they've lost people like you and I, people who are tired of their nonsense, and they think that they can bring back the goodwill by simply titling a film Heir to the Empire. I highly doubt that they will follow the book beat for beat. They can't at this point. They've created all these other story elements out in the world that it wouldn't make a lot of sense. Some of the happenings in those books, it wouldn't make a lot of sense now, especially with how we see Luke turn out. I'm going to put an image on the screen here of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. You cannot just... You can't put him in a story like Heir to the Empire and think we're going to forget about this, that we're going to forget about the green milk drinking loser who doesn't want to stand up for what's right anymore. The loser who wants to kill his nephew in cold blood for a minute before realizing how absolutely stupid that is. You can't reconcile those two. We are not going to come back. We are not going to forget what you did to Luke Skywalker. It's over. But that doesn't stop them from trying. Let's take a look at this article then from Bounding Into Comics. Dave Filoni says his upcoming Star Wars film needs to have a monumental moment in the time period that changes what's happening. The Mandalorian executive producer and Ahsoka showrunner Dave Filoni provided some details on what he hopes to accomplish with his recently announced Star Wars theatrical film. Filoni's theatrical film was one of 3 new Star Wars films announced during Star Wars Celebration back in April. In a press release, Lucasfilm detailed Filoni's film will orchestrate the escalating war between the Imperial Remnant and the fledgling New Republic. It also detailed that alongside the Mandalorian creator Jon Favreau, the film will bring together many of the threads of the Star Wars original series in a cinematic event. Filoni spoke to Empire at Star Wars Celebration, where he provided some more details about what he hopes to accomplish with the film. He would be asked if the film would just be another step in the overall story being painted by the Mandalorian and Ahsoka, or if it would be a culmination of the whole thing. He said, culmination is an interesting word. The way I look at it, there are small stories, and then there's the big story of the day too. A New Hope Empire and Return of the Jedi tell the important parts of the tale that really define the history of the period. There are all kinds of sub-stories underneath that. We've been building all these small stories. Speaking specifically to the theatrical film, he said, "To me, a theatrical experience has to have a big idea, a monumental moment in the time period that changes what's happening." Well, I'm gonna stop there for just a second. This idea that you have to have all these sub-stories, all these small stories, no you don't. No you don't. The Lord of the Rings did not require a bunch of sub-stories. The Lord of the Rings, as an example, was just one big story. Now, granted, there was a history built by J.R.R. Tolkien, a foundation on which the story rested, but he didn't have to have all these little stories, all these short stories written to explain the Lord of the Rings, to fill in the gaps, so to speak. I don't need to know everything about the characters. I just want to know the story. Everything else would be a cash grab, and that is what this is. I don't need to know all this other stuff. My appetite, especially these days, for Star Wars is not very high. I don't care about these characters anymore. I just don't want them sullied any longer. I'm like a guy who defending a family member's grave. You know, I don't want you to desecrate their grave. Luke Skywalker, he's this symbol of compassion and hope and all these wonderful things. You know, Luke Skywalker's character, he's my moral framework. For a lot of my life, he and characters like Frodo Baggins were important to me. That's practically my religion. So when you're sitting here making Luke Skywalker into this bitter old man who doesn't want to help anybody, yeah, you really offended me. And so, yeah, I don't need any other stories beyond the story, which was the rise and fall and redemption of Anakin Skywalker. That's it. Story's done. You didn't have anything to add. And all this other crap is just filler. It's just cash grab. It's just story for the sake of story. That's it. So yeah, I don't need all these small stories. Continuing on, what Tony Gilroy has done in Andor and what we did in Rebels, everything then changes when Luke blows up the Death Star, he explained. You're looking for these moments that define an era, and that's what the films really should be about, whether it's characters coming together or a defining moment. As for what his ideas for this defining or monumental moment could be, Filoni stayed mum. Of course he stayed mum. I have ideas, of course. I will not tell you what they are. However, he did add, there are little things along the way that I've built across different mediums, all in preparation for things that come later. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Look at the Disney sequel trilogy. There was no plan. There was no plan. Now you might have some plans. You know, Dave Filoni might be a cut above the likes of J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson. He might be a cut above them and actually have some plans, but I don't believe you. I don't think Star Wars has a grand plan right now. I don't think, other than, as I say, damage control right now. Other than, hey, let's bring in all these characters that people used to love, like Boba Fett. We'll have a Boba Fett show, an Ahsoka show, because we all love Ahsoka. And, you know, let's put out the cute little Yoda baby so that we can, you know, drum up all this merchandise sales and we can try to bring the fans back that way. And, you know, even when the story says that the little green guy shouldn't be in the story any longer, we're going to bring him back anyway. Season 3 is going to bring back Grogu, just because we want to keep selling merchandise. That's what this is all about at the end of the day, is making money. And I can't blame them for that entirely, but when that is the sole purpose behind everything you do, I do have a major problem with that, because it shows in the storyline, and you are essentially grave robbing. That's what you're doing. These characters are dead, they should be buried and resting peacefully, so to speak, but no, they won't let them do that. They are desecrating them. The article continues, this falls in line with what Filoni had to say about Thrawn. In an interview with Empire magazine that was leaked to the Star Wars Leaks subreddit, Filoni was asked, do you see Thrawn as the big bad of this New Republic era? Is that how you're positioning him? He replied, "Definitely in my eyes. When Timothy Zahn wrote Heir to the Empire, Thrawn became this very iconic villain because he was different than anything we'd seen before. He wasn't another helmet-wearing, lightsaber-wielding bad guy. You know, there's a lot of pull to make characters that are like Vader because it is so iconic," he continued. But the boldness that Timothy Zahn that is, what he had was to make somebody that wasn't like that didn't have those abilities but could fight in a different way. Filoni added, in other words, Star Wars, the war part of it, him being a Grand Admiral, a leader, a military strategist, a Moriarty archetype, someone that will outthink you, outstrategize you, that really resonated. He's a critical player in this time period. We're fortunate to have that character and fortunate to have Lars playing him. Yes, you're very fortunate to have that character, but you had your chance, Lucasfilm. You had it. When you decided to make an episode 7, 8, or 9. First of all, George Lucas had treatments for episodes 7, 8, and 9. Those were the actual sequels, and you decided not to use them. You decided you were smarter than George Lucas. And then you had an opportunity to do something with the likes of Heir to the Empire. You could have continued the story of Luke and Leia and the rest of them in Heir to the Empire, but you elected not to. You instead pretended that Luke and Leia and Han and Lando and all these guys were basically just old deadbeat losers, and that we were going to be fine with that because look how cool our new characters are. You decided you were smarter than Timothy Zahn. And now you've decided that we are all too stupid to remember what you have done to these characters we love. Well, unfortunately for you, that is not the case. I will not be swayed. I doubt that any of you listening to me right now will be swayed. Heir to the Empire is DOA.
Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.